Right now, as you're watching this, millions of women are moving through their days like ghosts, smiling at their children, nodding in meetings, laughing with friends, while inside, something vital is quietly shutting down. They're not broken. They're not weak. They're not failing. They've simply been asked to carry a weight no one else can see, let alone understand. Society calls it strength. But what if it's slow? Suffocation? What if the very things you've been praised for, your patience, your giving, your endless capacity to hold it all together, are the very things erasing you? Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the hidden reality of modern womanhood, not the curated version sold in ads and Instagram reels, but the raw, unspoken truth that lives in the silence between your breaths. You've been told you can have it all, but no one warned you that having it all means disappearing into roles until there's nothing left of the woman who started it all. You show up, you perform, you endure, and because you never collapse dramatically, no one believes you're drowning. But you are, and you're not alone. This isn't about blame. This isn't about men or mothers or systems, though they all play a part. This is about waking up to the invisible architecture that's been built around your life, brick by silent brick, until you forgot you had the right to walk out. I've sat across from women who run companies, raise children, hold marriages together, and yet whisper in hushed tones, "I don't know who I am anymore." Not because they lost themselves carelessly, but because they gave pieces away so quietly, so consistently, that one day they looked in the mirror and saw only reflections of what everyone else needed them to be. Think about the last time you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. The last time you canceled your own need to meet someone else's emergency. The last time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. Each of those moments wasn't just kindness, it was a quiet surrender of your sovereignty. And over time, those surrenders pile up like dust on your soul until you can't remember what it felt like to breathe for yourself alone. This isn't weakness. This is conditioning so deep, it feels like nature. You were taught that love means sacrifice, and that sacrifice means silence. That being good means never taking up too much space, that your value lives in how much you can carry without complaining. But here's what they never told you. You were never meant to carry it all. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness doesn't come from doing more. It comes from stopping long enough to ask, whose life am I actually living? You know that feeling when you're in a room full of people, your family, your friends, your partner, and yet you've never felt more alone? It's not that they don't care. It's that they don't see you. Not the real you. They see the version you've trained yourself to be, the calm one, the capable one, the one who never falls apart. But inside, you're screaming into a void so vast, it echoes back as silence. And the cruelest part? You've become so good at hiding your exhaustion that even you've started to believe the performance. You tell yourself, it's not that bad. Other women have it worse. I should be grateful. But gratitude doesn't fill the hollow space where your joy used to live. You've been taught to measure your worth in output, in how much you can give, how much you can endure, how seamlessly you can hold everything together, while never asking for anything in return. And when you finally crack, when the tears come in the shower, when you sit in your car long after you've parked, when you stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if this is all there is, you don't call it what it is. You call it weakness. But it's not weakness. It's your soul's emergency signal. It's the part of you that still remembers you were meant for more than just survival. I spoke with a woman last year, brilliant, accomplished, the kind of person everyone admires. She told me she hadn't had a single thought that wasn't about someone else's needs in over 2 years. Not one. Her mind had become a command center for everyone else's life, and her own dreams had been archived like old files, gathering dust in the back of her consciousness. She didn't realize she was gone until she tried to remember what made her feel alive and came up blank. That's the slow theft no one talks about. It doesn't happen in dramatic betrayals. It happens in 1,000 tiny moments. Saying yes when you mean no, smiling when you're shattered, shrinking so others can feel comfortable. And the world rewards you for it. You're so strong, they say. I don't know how you do it. But no one asks if you want to keep doing it. No one sees the cost. And because you've been conditioned to equate your value with your usefulness, you keep giving, even as your spirit starves. But here's the truth that will change everything. You are not here to be useful. You are here to be alive, fully, fiercely, unapologetically alive. And that requires more than just surviving. It requires reclaiming the parts of yourself you've buried to make room for everyone else. It requires silence, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of listening to your own voice again. Because somewhere beneath the roles, the expectations, the endless doing, she's still there. The woman who laughed without filtering herself. The woman who dreamed without apology. The woman who knew deep in her bones that she was enough, just as she was. She didn't disappear. She's been waiting, and she's ready to come home. Let me tell you about a moment that changed everything for one woman I know. She was standing in her kitchen at 11 p.m., washing the same plate over and over, long after it was clean. Her kids were asleep. Her husband was in bed. The house was quiet, but her mind was a storm, racing through tomorrow's to-do list, replaying a tense conversation from work, worrying about her aging parents, calculating how little sleep she'd get before the alarm rang. And then, out of nowhere, she dropped the plate. Not on purpose, not dramatically. It just slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. And she didn't move. She just stood there, staring at the pieces, tears streaming down her face, not because of the plate, but because in that moment she realized, this is my life. Constant motion, endless responsibility, no space to just be. And no one would notice if I broke, because I've made breaking look like functioning. That's the trap. You've been taught that if you're not visibly collapsing, if you're still showing up, still smiling, still managing, you must be fine. But functioning isn't living, and performing isn't presence. You've become so skilled at holding it all together that you've forgotten what it feels like to let go, to rest without guilt, to say no without apology, to exist without earning it. Think about the last time you did something purely for yourself, just because it brought you joy. Not because it served someone else, not because it looked good on paper, not because it made sense. Can you even remember? That's not your fault. That's the result of a lifetime of subtle messaging. Your needs are secondary. Your dreams can wait. Your peace is a luxury, not a necessity. But here's what they never told you. Your peace is the foundation. Without it, everything you build, your relationships, your career, your family, rests on sand. And one day, the tide will come in. You've been running on empty so long, you've started to believe emptiness is normal, but it's not. It's a warning, a sacred signal that you've given too much of yourself away. And the most radical thing you can do now isn't to give more. It's to stop, to pause, to ask yourself, what if I stopped carrying the weight of everyone else's happiness? What if I let someone else hold the space for once? What if I chose me, not as a last resort, but as a first priority? This isn't selfishness. This is survival, and it's the beginning of everything real. You've been told that love means sacrifice, but no one told you that sacrifice without boundaries becomes self-erasure. You give and give and give, believing that if you just love hard enough, care deeply enough, show up consistently enough, you'll finally be seen, finally be enough. But the truth is, the people around you have grown accustomed to your light, and they've forgotten to tend to the flame that creates it. They don't notice when you dim, because you've trained them to expect your glow as a given, like sunlight, like air. And you've trained yourself to believe that if you stop giving, you'll be abandoned. So you keep pouring, even as your cup runs dry, even as your voice grows quieter, even as your dreams gather dust in the attic of your mind. But here's what no one warns you about. The moment you start refilling your own cup, everything shifts. Not because people leave, though some might, but because you finally see who was only there for what you provided and who truly loves you for who you are. I've watched women step back from the endless giving, and the world didn't end. In fact, something miraculous happened. Space opened up, space for breath, space for joy, space for the return of the woman who'd been buried under layers of should and must and not enough. She didn't need to be rebuilt. She just needed to be remembered. And the first step back to her isn't grand. It's quiet. It's saying no to one extra task. It's sitting in silence for 5 minutes without checking your phone. It's buying yourself flowers just because you like how they smell. It's letting someone else handle the problem you've always fixed. These aren't small acts, they're revolutions. Each one is a declaration. I am not just here to serve. I am here to exist. Fully, messily, imperfectly. And that is more than enough. The world will try to pull you back into performance. Old habits will whisper that you're being selfish. Guilt will rise like a tide. But this time, you'll recognize it for what it is, the echo of a story you were taught, not a truth you must live. You were never meant to be a vessel for everyone else's needs. You were meant to be a whole human being, with desires, boundaries, dreams, and the sacred right to take up space. And the most powerful thing you can do now is to stop apologizing for it. There's a moment that comes for every woman who's been living for everyone but herself. A moment so quiet, most people miss it. It's not a breakdown. It's not a dramatic exit. It's the first time you choose yourself without justification. No grand reason, no emergency, no one's permission. You simply decide, today I listen to my own voice. And in that instant, something ancient inside you stirs. It's the part of you that never believed the lie, that you had to earn your right to exist. That part has been waiting, not for permission, but for your attention. You've spent years believing that if you just did more, achieved more, loved harder, you'd finally feel worthy. But worthiness isn't earned, it's remembered, and it's been yours all along. The exhaustion you feel isn't a sign of failure. It's the friction of a soul trying to break free from a life that no longer fits. You don't need to burn it all down. You just need to stop building on ground that doesn't belong to you. Start small. Let the laundry wait. Say, I don't know, instead of scrambling for the right answer. Sit with your coffee while it's still hot. These aren't indulgences. They're acts of reclamation. Every time you honor your own need, you send a message to your nervous system. I am safe. I am worthy. I am home. And slowly, the fog lifts. You begin to recognize yourself again, not as the woman who holds it all together, but as the woman who is finally whole. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the one you were always meant to live. Not perfect, not polished, but yours. And that is everything. You don't have to earn the right to rest. You don't have to justify your exhaustion. You don't have to prove that you've done enough to deserve a single moment of peace. That belief that your worth is tied to your output is the oldest lie you've been sold. And it's been draining your spirit dry for years. Think about it. When was the last time you stopped? Not because you collapsed, not because you were forced to, but because you chose to, because your body asked for it, because your soul whispered, enough. Most women can't remember, because stopping feels like failing. But it's not failure, it's rebellion. In a world that profits from your endless giving, choosing yourself is the most radical act of all. And it starts with a single shift. Stop asking, how can I do more? And start asking, what do I need right now? Not what your partner needs, not what your kids need, not what your boss expects. You. That question alone is a lifeline back to yourself. I've seen women transform, not by adding more to their plates, but by finally putting something down. The guilt, the performance, the need to be liked, the fear of disappointing. And in the space that opens, something unexpected grows. Clarity, joy, presence. Not because their lives became easier, but because they stopped betraying themselves to keep others comfortable. You were never meant to be a martyr. You were meant to be a woman, fully human, deeply feeling, gloriously imperfect. And that woman doesn't need to be fixed. She just needs to be freed. So today, give yourself permission to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Let the world spin without your hands on it for just 1 hour, 1 moment, 1 breath. And in that stillness, you'll hear her again. The voice you've been drowning out for so long. She's been waiting, and she's ready to lead you home. You've been taught to believe that your value lies in how much you can endure, how quietly you can suffer, how gracefully you can bend, how seamlessly you can disappear into the needs of others. But endurance isn't virtue when it costs you your soul. And bending isn't strength when it leaves you permanently hunched over your own emptiness. The truth is, you've been surviving in a system that confuses sacrifice with love, silence with peace, and exhaustion with dedication. And the most dangerous part? You've started to believe it's your fault for feeling empty. But it's not your fault. It's by design. A woman who is constantly giving has no energy left to question, to dream, to rise. And that's convenient for a world that prefers you useful, not free. But freedom isn't out there. It's in here, in the quiet decision to stop apologizing for taking up space, in the courage to say, "This is mine," even when your hands are shaking, in the daily practice of choosing yourself, not as a grand finale, but as a quiet rhythm beneath everything else. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to return to who you've always been, before the roles, before the expectations, before you learn to shrink. She's still there, not broken, not lost, just waiting for you to stop looking outside for permission to come home to yourself. And the moment you do, truly do, you'll realize something profound. You were never drowning. You were just holding your breath, waiting for the right time to rise. That time is now. Not when it's perfect, not when everyone understands, not when you've earned it. Now. Because you've always been worthy, you've always been enough, and you've always belonged to yourself. First and always. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be healed in some grand dramatic way. You just need to be witnessed by yourself, for yourself. For years, you've looked to others for validation, for safety, for proof that you're enough. But the gaze that matters most has been turned outward for too long. It's time to bring it back home. Look at yourself. Not the version you perform for the world, not the roles you wear like armor, but the raw, tender, messy human underneath. See her. Honor her. Trust her. Because she's been guiding you all along. You just forgot how to listen. The exhaustion, the numbness, the quiet rage that flickers when someone asks, "How are you?" and you say, "Fine." That's not weakness. That's your intuition screaming that something is out of alignment. And the only way back to balance isn't through more effort. It's through surrender. Surrender the need to be perfect. Surrender the belief that love must be earned through sacrifice. Surrender the story that your needs are a burden. Let it all go. Not all at once, just enough to breathe. And in that breath, you'll find her again. The woman who knows her worth without proof, who rests without guilt, who exists without apology. She doesn't need a spotlight. She just needs your attention. So today, stop running. Stop fixing. Stop performing. Sit with her in the quiet. Let her tell you what she's been trying to say all this time. And when you finally hear it, really hear it, you'll realize you were never lost. You were just waiting for yourself to come back. And now you're here. Not to save anyone, not to carry the weight of the world, but to live fully, fiercely, unapologetically as the woman you were always meant to be. That's not the end of the journey. It's the beginning. And it starts with a single sacred choice. Choose you.